What's up, folks? It is Tuesday night here on a lovely, warm evening here in Tampa. I was going to say afternoon, but it is evening time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you especially for downloading the show, whether it be on YouTube and on our audio side of the house. We do appreciate it as always. Thank you also to the 29 states here stateside, along with the 11 countries overseas, Brazil, Uruguay, and everyone else for tuning in and supporting the show. We really do appreciate it. And tonight, yours truly is running solo, but no big deal because, as always, Mike Fuji is on assignment, and he's got a pretty big assignment that's coming up here this Thursday. And by the way, this Thursday coming up, Leslie Goodell will be with us this Thursday. So tune in 8 o'clock this Thursday, and that's where Fuji is on assignment tonight. Make sure he gets all the things wrapped up and ready for us on Thursday. But nevertheless, we have baseball back, as we spoke a little bit about it last week. We get to see some games finally live, as we saw last week with Philly sports trips. And if you guys need to make any kind of travels, sport travels, let me say more specifically, make sure you go with phillysportstrips.com. The fun that we had last week, and the gentleman that's going to be on with us also was there last week. It was great weather, great times, meeting new people, getting to hear different stories and having fun at it. So if you guys want a great tailgate party, like what we saw, as far as not a tailgate party, but I'm going to call it Charlie Manuel Day last week. It was fun to finally meet the man, thank him for what he did, thank him for winning that 2008 World Series. And there will be an interview with him later on that I will post at one point here as soon as I get done editing it on Facebook, so you guys can see, and or on my website. So make sure you check either or, Broad Street South on Facebook and or broadstreetsouth.com, broadstsouth.com, so you guys can check out the entire interview that Charlie provided. And he's got some good ones in there with Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, and everyone's favorite, Jimmy Rollins. He's got a great Jimmy Rollins stories. And somebody asked about Howard Eskin, and I'll leave it at that on what Charlie had to say about the return. So make sure it'll be sometime probably towards the weekend when I release that video. But again, you guys will see that. And if you didn't get a chance to see, you'll see the still pictures and videos I put up there just a little while ago on the Facebook page, where you guys can see what phillysportstrips.com is all about. But again, thank you to Vince. Thank you to Bob Kavanaugh. Thank you to everyone who came out. That was a lot of fun. Like I said, very enjoyable. They were treated to an Orlando win with the Sixers last week, a thriller, and then over to Clearwater for great weather, except for about a day where it rained a little bit, but nevertheless, it's always good times. But we'll get into some Major League Baseball talk tonight, also some Phillies talk, and maybe touch on a little bit of what's going on here in the NFL. The Eagles have been quiet, but sometimes quiet is good. So we'll see what's going on with our birds. But nevertheless, I'm happy to see everyone here tonight. At least I see the comments already coming in. And our guest, Chris, and if you guys have seen the promo earlier, it looks like it was 125 drunk Phils fans. Well, there might be, but it isn't 125 drunk Phils fans. It's just one drunk Phils fan, which isn't, but he'll get behind the name of the blog here. But everyone else, thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate it. I'm Angel, and welcome to Broad Street South. All right, and to bring in the gentleman here, I want to do my due diligence as I do every single time when we have a host or a guest on. Make sure I bring it up here. If you guys want to follow the Drunk Phils fans, you guys, all you have to do, go out on Twitter and on social media, as far as when it comes to Facebook, also on Instagram, Drunk Phils fans. And the tagline, if you guys have not seen it, our bases are always loaded, which I think is absolutely fitting for Drunk Phils fans. And with that being said, we're going to bring on the man behind the blog. It is Chris. Chris, how are you doing this evening?
Good. How are you doing, Angel? Thanks for having me on. So nice meeting you last week. Had a lot of fun. So yeah, it was awesome. Again, Philly Sports Trips and Vince took care of everything. Just a great week.
Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I couldn't have a better time with everyone that we ended up meeting, being on the cruise for the night. That was a lot of fun to get to see the skyline. So, and thankfully I was able to act hopefully a little bit as a tourist to show you guys exactly what it's all about around town. But listen, it's always fun to meet great people. It's always fun to meet new folks, of course, and especially because they come down and I selfishly, because you guys are coming back from back home down in Philly. So I get to feel everyone from Philly for a little bit before you all go back home. But warm weather to trade in for, I see the long sleeve shirt.
Yeah, unfortunately. What do you miss down there? It's like, do you get the real cheesesteaks, and is there something soft pretzels? Like, what do you miss?
I do miss the pretzels. I will say I do miss a lot, especially
Yeah.
when you're pretty much you can go anywhere to pick up a pretzel. So I will say it's kind of one of my big ones. The cheesesteaks, though, I'm fortunate because there's a place in Spring Hill that actually Richie's cheesesteaks. The guy's originally from South Philly, and everything that he gets, he still gets from Philly. Minus the steak is about the only thing, but he does get the Amoroso bread. And everyone knows if you're going to get an authentic cheesesteak, it's got to be Amoroso. But yeah, there's Wawa I don't miss because obviously it's here. So that's a great thing. Although a lot of Floridians think that Wawa was made here. And I tell them, no, it's out from the county, from Philadelphia. So yeah, it was not invented in Florida. It moved down here, but it did not be, it was not invented. And the first one that he actually opened up was in Orlando. So, or right outside of Disney. And the story went that even when they were open outside from Disney World, the first 4 hours that Wawa was open was completely emptied out, and they had trucks standby on a warehouse to come then refill the store, only to be sold out again. And so now they just celebrated their, I don't want to make a lighter myself, but I think it was just their 300th store down here in Florida.
Okay. All right. So you get a little taste of home on both ends. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's fun. And then John Kruk, he attempted, and now we use the word attempted because I don't want to come down on a Cruckster, but he tried to open up a cheesesteak place out in Tampa. Just wasn't the same, not the same kind of quality, definitely not the same rolls. And it was for what you paid for on the steak was not what you normally get in a Philly cheesesteak. So yeah, he tried. I'll give him that much. He did try. He tried his best. It wasn't there. And then down in Tampa, it's kind of tough when you open up a business down there. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out for him. And it's fine because not like John Kruk's hurting for any kind of money, but I'm pretty sure he'll try it again if he gets the opportunity. But
yeah.
I see Dylan, our local Tampa correspondent, now a Toronto Blue Jay, says, hey, everyone, Angel, good luck to yourself Friday with the Titans. Also can't wait to see till Sundays when my de facto team, the Blue Jays, play your Phillies. Yeah, Dylan. Good luck with that, my buddy. Nice ballpark. TD Bank ballpark is really nice, so I can't knock him too much for that. But our young Dylan Spalding getting hired by the Toronto Blue Jays as a scoreboard analyst, and then he finally got the gig as well for the minor league season. So Dylan doing big things down here in Florida, but for Dunedin for the Toronto Blue Jays. So good to see Dylan. And the other comments are as they come in, I'll end up reading them off there. But Chris, I want to talk about, first of all, before we get into Phillies, how did the name come up as Drunk Phil's fans?
Yeah. So, I guess I started the official Facebook site probably in 2010, but before then, I was writing in a team. We're writing on the blog. And it wasn't intentional to kind of we're not saying we're alcohol laced and, drunks, but it's I live baseball. 12 months, that's the sport. I do have union season tickets, fans of other sports, but I am intoxicated on baseball. In January, I'm thinking about who the Phillies are going to get or who we may lose. So it was a little bit of that, but it's also I love going to different breweries, different bars, trying different beers. So part of what I do on the page is I'll go to different places, try different beers. Part of it's posting that. And I think, beer and baseball just go together. Apple pie, America, hot dogs. So it just kind of took off. And originally it was just a blog. And then once social media kind of took off, the Facebook page grew and grew and grew. And then Twitter and Instagram. So it's tough because sometimes, the drunk word it's a negative word. And, us Philly fans get enough negativity already.
Right.
So it's not, I think it's one of those things where I understand the optics of it, but we're not concerned with it. I just love what I'm doing. I love the people that are on the page with me, the other admins, and we just have a lot of fun every day talking baseball.
I think that's the big thing that a lot of people end up missing out on is that you have to, first of all, you have to love what you do. And it's just like us here at Broad Street South, if we didn't enjoy doing what we're doing, and as I tell everyone that ever comes on the show, if you're not having fun doing what you're doing, you might go ahead and stop it, because once the fun stops, the show stops, everything just stops. You have to enjoy the time and the devotion you put into whatever it is, whether it's a blog, whether it's a show, no matter if it's a radio host, because your content is what sells it to the fans. And with that, you got to make sure you keep it fresh all the time to make sure that you know exactly what you're ending up talking about, as you guys do as well. But the great thing is that as you start gaining a little more notoriety, then people start going back to you because they want to know, you know what, Chris and the Drunk Phil's fans put this together just last week, and now someone else is breaking out the story, but we saw this somewhere else. And it doesn't even have to be a breaking news story. It could just be a small blurb somewhere you guys happen to catch it for anybody else, and you guys might have been the first to actually put it out there. That's the great thing, that when you're creating blogs, as a lot of people do now, it's those small stories that I think everyone missed when they used to have the paper back then. And you will look for it because you will look for those small stories within the bigger stories. And that's what makes you guys and makes everyone a lot better. So I'm glad that you guys love to do, obviously, talk about the Phillies, talk about Major League Baseball. And as we even you and I discussed, and we were on the cruise ship that night on taking a nightly cruise, is that Major League Baseball only did a 5-year deal with this current deal, which is something, to me, it's worrisome, because that means another 5 years from now, we could be going through this whole process all over again. And if you're offering guys over $500 million contracts, I can only imagine from here to 5 years from now, how much more are we going to get into the $1 billion folks? Are we going to start doing, 1.5 billion? So it makes you wonder, the fans are going to pay for it. Regardless of the way you look at it, ticket prices are going to go up. Beer prices will go up. Lord knows. I mean, we were over in Lakeland. I believe it was $13.50 for a beer. And that's just at a minor league ballpark. Yeah. So I'd imagine how much back at, Citizens Bank Park, I mean, you're probably close to $20 at this point this year, because 2 bottled waters at the ballpark with $10, which normally you can go outside on a vendor and get them $1 a piece. So the price is already starting to reflect upon what the fans are going to end up paying. But I would like to know from your take, that 5-year deal, how does that fit for you and your guys?
So it's worrisome, because are we going to be back in the same situation again? And I believe, I don't know if you saw it, but they are going with the ghost runner again. So the extra innings rule, they're going to start with the guy on second. So I worried about the state of baseball because, I don't think kids are playing it. When we grew up, where you were or where I was, I think it was, you saw kids playing baseball on the street. Now you don't see it now. They're
Right.
not doing it as much. It's basketball, it's soccer, it's a bunch of different things. So I think we're losing like the people younger than us. So it's like our age and on, we're not getting it. Baseball's not getting a lot of new fans recently. And I think the 99-day strike or lockout or whatever it was, kind of like it really dampened things. And 5 years, I mean, I guess, Nick just signed and he's here for 5 years. So will he, what happens with someone who's more of a long-term, or how does that happen? It's disappointing that we have a passion for baseball, but sometimes it's still seen as a business, a little bit too much to my liking. And I'm a traditionalist with baseball. So the DH, I don't love it. I understand why they went with it. You can't have one league that has the DH and the other one that doesn't. The bigger bases, not a huge deal if it's some safety issue. But some of the other things that I heard, at what point does it stop? I know they want to bring more offense into it, but I still love a 1-0 game.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like it, and we talked about it. I think it was almost at the ballpark as well. Like, listen, if you're going to be a fan, understand that baseball will never be sped up to like an hour-and-a-half game, 2-hour game. It's 3.5 hours, 4 hours of your life that you need to just devote for that afternoon. And you can bring everyone knows the more people you bring to the ballpark, the better it is, because you can break out into different conversations as the game's going on, as a lot of people do when they go to the ballpark. Yeah. As me being a nerd for many, many years until this day here, I loved it even if I went by myself because I was into the game. But of course, I love when friends come around because it's great when you get to get not only caught up with things that you've been so busy doing, but at the same time catching a great ball game. And the more exciting it is, like you're saying, whether it's a 1-run deficit, it makes it even better. If it's getting close to obviously a no-hitter, you're going to 7th and 8th, which you never want to say when you're at the ballpark, but in your head, you're thinking about it. those are things you tend to enjoy as a fan. And I think that's why I hope that Major League Baseball, if, again, 5 years from now, we're in 2027, we're going to do this all over again, I hope they settle it a lot faster than when they did this time around. But the big thing is going to be that money. And the money seems to be the biggest fuel driver here with his contract. And I don't know how many times you're going to be able to pay these guys to hit a ball and catch a ball over $500 million. I mean, that's just insane money when you really think about it. I mean, you have what in LA, $400 million, if I remember correctly, or $440 million after Bryce Harper had his $330 million deal for 12 or 15 years. So it's just, I don't know how much more money that it's going to be coming up, but I want to get the two comments here that I see people coming in here. It says, Chris says, hey, Chris, you need to get drunk Phillies fans to Japan, recruit some of the good baseball talent here, which that would be entertaining. And Donna says,
he is my neighbor when I was a kid. So we grew up together. We played baseball, and I know he's living in Japan now. So yeah, Chris, I would love to visit. I'm sure there is. We need another, Ohtani to get to the Phils. So keep your eye out over there.
Oh, I'm wondering if Chris, you're still tuned in. Does he get to a lot of games out there in Japan? I'm not too sure if he does or not. Does he happen to let you know if he gets to many games out there in Japan?
I don't see him post about any games, so I'm not sure exactly where he is and if there's any of the league over there, close to him. So I'm not sure.
Right. And then Donna, she says that drunk Phil's fans is entertaining. So it's good to see that. And again, that's the feedback that you like to see. So that's a great thing. And Lee, what's going on in Yokohama, Tokyo? Oh, okay. All right. Well, that might answer that one there.
Yeah, okay.
So,
yeah, Donna, we love seeing you on here. Longtime DPF person, so I know your name. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Yep. As always appreciate Lee, by the way, great friend, just like family. Lee Money from Steel City Renegades, Red Line Radio LLC, which the show can be viewed there as well, redlinellc.com. If you guys want to listen to some great music, some fantastic shows, they're up to about 15, 16 shows, if I remember at this point. So great job always by Red Line Radio LLC. And Donna says you're welcome. So,
cool.
Again, thanks for everyone for tuning in tonight. But Chris, we saw that as we witnessed the game on Friday, the opener, ended up as a 6-6 tie. Looked like the Phillies kind of went stale, but then again, a lot of the lineup was not based upon what their starters were. I think there was 2 starters, if I remember correctly, about 3 at max in the game. They want to see their minor league system come into play because we haven't seen the minors in the last 2 years, thanks to COVID. So was it, and again, just going by what we saw on the field, was it something that the Phillies wanted to start out with to see more of their minor league talent prior to bringing the major league talent onto the field?
So I think it was really 2-pronged. We took a bus because, we were over in Clearwater to Lakeland, and it was like an hour and a half, close to 2-hour drive. So I just feel like maybe part of it's like Bryce Harper and JT don't do bus rides anymore, when it's going to be long like that. So I think a part of that is just, in the minors, normally your stars are almost always playing at home or you have a better chance, and they might send 1 or 2 on the road. Right. But I also think, in center field, like they have to run a bunch of people out there. Muzziotti, who probably won't make the team, but they did expand the rosters in April from 24 to 28. So that's something that's new. So there might be these fringe guys that now are making the team that may not have. So I think that it does have a lot to do with it. And maybe they knew ahead of time that they're going to have 4 extra spots to kind of fill. I was surprised that they sent, one of the catchers down. So like right now, the Phillies backup catcher, JT's going to play the bulk, but I don't know who it is at this point. I thought it was going to be Marchand, but he got sent to the minors. So I don't think it's going to be him.
Yeah. I think what I feel bad for is the minor league farm system, because obviously we haven't, again, 2 years in a row. The first year, it basically was next to nothing. They had canceled the entire season. Last year was the delayed start once again, because it was delayed start even for the Major League Baseball season. And then this year, thankfully, they're going to get everything kicked off on time. Clearwater Threshers, I believe the first game is April 9th, because you have the the regular baseball season started the 8th, so I think they shifted the day over to the 9th. It's going to be good to see them down here because the guys that even myself and my producer Debbie in the other room there, we didn't get to see the same guys that we saw the year before from this team. Now, whether because they didn't make the cut or it was one of those things that they had no idea whether there was going to be another season started. But I know seeing some of the talent that we have down here, they look promising. Some other guys, not as much. Unfortunately for the Phillies, they have, if just being completely honest, it's a depleted farm system from Clearwater basically up to Reading. It's not looking too well. But again, every year is completely different. We get to see more guys finally getting time in that they need in order to be successful to make it to the Major League Baseball ranks. But the Phillies, as far as the way I see it, still pretty much hurting for the most part on the pitching rotation side of the house. Still not nailed it. Still not there to where we needed to be. But I was asked before on an earlier show or previous show last Thursday, how far do I believe the Phillies are from at least contending? And I said about 5 years. Does it seem like that's a far stretch for Phillies to get back to another World Series contention? Or is there something maybe prior close to that?
So you're asking if I think they're a World Series contender now or in 5 years?
In about five, I would say probably about 5 years.
I mean, I hope it's now. I'll tell you, I was thinking about this earlier today, and in 2003, when Tommy came over, we weren't good for about 10 years. And then that moment was kind of like when we felt maybe we could do it. It still took us 4 years to get to the playoffs in 2007, but there was that certain buzz, like being alive and a Phillies fan from 2007 to 11. That had to be like it was in the 70s, from like, I guess, 75 to maybe even 81 or 82. But I feel that there are things, we paid for bats, right? So these guys aren't going to make great plays. We don't have hardly any, maybe no plus fielders, like no one but if they can make the normal plays and the pitchers can go 6 or 7 innings. Like today I saw Sir Anthony pitched 1 inning, 14 pitches, 12 strikes, averaging 97 miles per hour, struck out the side. Like if he's your 6th or 7th inning guy and you have guys like Familia, Hand, Nabel, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's closer than that. And I think that's probably why Middleton went, and finally did the not stupid money, but the smart money and says it's times now. Like these guys are 30, like, Bryce and JT and Hoskins, like this is their prime. If we're going to do it with these guys, it's got to be now. And sometimes you got to get lucky. I think our bullpen was incredibly unlucky. I think they were terrible, but part of it was they were just unlucky. And Nola was unlucky last year. If you look at his balls that were in play that were actually hit or is 2 strike, it was brutal, like absolutely 50% worse than any of his other years. I don't think things like that are going to repeat. So I'm hopeful that it's this year. Honestly, I'm tired of not being in the playoffs, but I'm tired of like the loser mentality of the playoffs are that's the win. Hey, we made the playoffs. I don't ever want to think like that. I don't think like that now. I don't want to. I don't think most people do, but we're just happy to get that next step is the playoffs. But I mean, I know there's powerful teams out there. I'm still hopeful, Angel.
Yeah, and I think as many people are the same way with Donna, because she says that the Phil's farm system is awful, which is, again, an accurate statement because you can't mask it any other way. And she also says that Nola, no run support. And again, last year was a lot of things that went wrong for the Phils. We hope, especially when it comes to injuries, Lord knows that, and not just the Phillies, it seems like it goes to the Eagles and the Sixers and the Flyers, which the Flyers, by the way, I'll keep saying it. I don't know what's going to happen with the Flyers. I almost feel like the Snyder family will turn around and sell this team. I don't know what's going to take for him to shake up the Flyers. The worst I've ever seen in my lifetime, but hopefully they get better. But when it comes to the Phillies, I think Joe Girardi took a lot of heat last year. I think a lot of people wanted to run him out of town. And I don't know why, because to me, it's one of those things that, Joe can only do but so much. As your manager, you're going to be able to either stay in there, hang in there, and work with what you have. And he was hoping that Middleton, when he told me he was going to spend stupid money, that he was going to do great things. And last year we just didn't see it. As you said, this year they're spending smart money compared to the stupid money. And I just hope as the season progresses, they know where they need to start filling in the gaps. I know again, on the pitching rotation side of the house, that is a major one that needs to be, at least looked at more than what you'll see first from the batting side of the house. So your defense needs to be definitely beefed up versus your offense. And I want to bring up Cindy here. She makes 2 comments. She says, "Hi, Angel and Chris. DPF rocks. Thanks for the great forum." Chris, I agree. It's got to be this year. Pitching looks so much better this year. Yeah. And follows up with, the Flyers are a hot mess. They're losing right now 2-0 as we talk about it. First in Detroit. So listen, the Flyers are just... Cindy, I'm right there with you because even though I do live down here in Tampa, obviously I follow the Lightning and what's going on here because I have 2 reporters down here from the Lightning that end up being on the show as well. But the Flyers, again, we'll get into that a little bit later on because I cannot believe how bad they are. I mean, they're worse than the Bad News Bears. If the Bad News Bears had a hockey team, I think that's how bad they are. They probably end up losing against a high school team. It's a shame. Sydney says she's hanging her head in shame. So that's pretty hysterical. Said, Sydney, thanks for tuning in. Donna and everyone else, thank you for tuning in. And of course, we have Chris tonight from the Drunk Phillies fans. And again, thank you, Chris, for taking the time for coming out. And again, it was a pleasure meeting you guys, you and your wife last week. It was a lot of fun down here in Clearwater, along with Philly Sports Strips and Vince, doing a great job. But I want to get to, before we get some more Phillies talk, Charlie Manuel. Yeah. At the age of 78, how sharp that gentleman still is, the stories that he told, the knowledge that he has. And he just talks about, and as we were there, he talks about himself as if he's still trying out for this team. Charlie knows he's well loved. He will always be loved in Philly, will always go down as a legend in Philadelphia for doing what he did for the fan base. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to tell him thank you for what he did for the Phillies. But it's funny to hear him, like he talked about at times when someone asked him a question that, I wish the Phillies would listen to me as a batting coach. You are the 2008 World Series manager. I'm pretty sure the Phillies are listening to a lot we have to say, but it's just, he never talks about himself at any kind of like high echelon or anything else like that. He just talks about himself as if he's just still fighting to be on a team somewhere. One thing
humble man, beautiful stories. It was like sitting in his living room, just hearing some yarns of the years. He was just awesome. And I would never believe he's the age he is. It just doesn't look it, doesn't act it. That was an amazing experience.
Yeah, right. I wish that's one thing. And as for those who are just tuning in right now, I do have the full interview with Charlie Manuel, and I'll be putting out this sometime later on this week, either on our Facebook page on Broad Street South, or look for it on our actual website, broadstreetsouth.com, broadstsouth.com, as you guys can see at the bottom of the page here. So Charlie talked about this team that he believes they can also do well this year. He likes what's out there. Someone asked him about Abdul Herrera, saying that if he likes it, that he's back with the team. As Charlie said, he didn't like his hijinks, the stuff he does off the field, but he also said, surprisingly, that he's an underrated player. And coming from just a fan from this side of the house, and you blogging about it all the time, why do you feel, Chris, that he said that he feels that Abdul Herrera was an underrated player?
I don't understand that. That's the one point with Odubel that I just disagree. I mean, he's been around long enough, and his baseball IQ may be the worst that I've ever seen of any player. Like, he just continues to make the same idiotic mistakes time after time. But Charlie said he's a hard worker. He said he's there early, he stays late. I don't think he's underrated. I just think we should have moved on. Like, I don't think he's the answer. And I know he's hurt right now, and I don't want anyone to be hurt, but I don't really want him on the team either. I think he's not a distraction. I believe people need second chances, but I'm just done with Odubel. Just his nonsense, and the bat flipping and stuff like that on a double or a pop-up. Like, that's kind of like what happens now. I do hate it. But it's more of like not knowing how many outs there are, not knowing the game situation. It's just, what are you thinking out there? So talent is only one part of it. It makes me think of Bull Durham. So right. Nuke LaLoosh is this powerful arm, and Crash Davis says he has $1 million arm and a 10-cent head. maybe that's what Charlie sees with Odubel, where he has all of these skills, but he's just not putting it together. I hope he does somewhere else, but I don't want him here anymore.
No, and I think a lot of people don't want him here as well. I like to get Cindy and Donna, if you ladies are still tuned in, about your take about Abdul Herrera as well. But there are people just like you have now, for example, Deshaun Watson, who's going to get apparently a big second chance with a 5-year, $280 million deal there with the Cleveland Browns. So I guess they did their research, extensive research, and feel that if all these stories had collaborated the way they were, not saying it's completely over, but if a grand jury didn't decide to indict them, then that means there's flaws and holes in the stories. With Abdul, it was a complete different thing. We know it because we heard about it. There was a report. I mean, it's a big difference between Deshaun and Abdul, but I also don't by any means say that Deshaun did anything any better than Abdul. As someone that's in any kind of professional sport, you should know what your actions are. You should know the fans are they're going to support you. And in Philly, everybody knows that either it's a make or break city. They can say whatever they want to about any other city in the world. Philly, if your skin is not tough, I don't care who you are, you're not going to make it. It's us in the workforce, and we're tough with each other because we bring out the best in one another. But the same way with the fans. The fans are passionate in Philly. They absolutely love our teams. But when you do silly mistakes and dumb mistakes, you're going to end up paying for it because the fans are going to get on you if it is a legitimate story. So I hope Abdul, if anything, at least learned from his mistakes and continue to learn from his mistakes and get better. No different than Deshaun, for example. But Phillies they make, I guess, one big splash. They bring in Schwarber. And apparently, obviously, he loved the move coming to Philly. I don't know if the Phillies were pursuing someone else because, again, there was rumors, and rumors spread mean absolutely nothing. But Kyle seems like he's really happy to be here. He seems to be excited. I didn't get the opportunity to watch the unfortunate press conference a couple of days ago. Again, due to my full-time job site, I missed out on it. I haven't gotten a chance to catch a replay.
Yeah.
What's the feeling in the room as far as in the clubhouse for him being here and then what he believes in the Phillies?
I mean, I have to believe this guy is like the prototypical, Philly's going to love this guy. He reminds me of maybe an Incaviglia and a Kruk from the 93 team. Beloved team. I don't think that he's going to be as bad as his 2020. Schwarber had just a terrible year. And last year he had an incredible year. And if he didn't get hurt, he might have hit 50 home runs last year. I think he's strikeout prone. I think he's going to average 2 a game, but he's going to hit 30 to 40 home runs too. So, and if we can kind of hide his deficiencies or glove in left field, he's, to me, seems like a left-handed Greg Luzinski. We hit him in left field, hit a ton. I mean, Greg hit more for average than Schwarber did. I am not certain that I see Schwarber as the number one hitter. I know he gets on base, but he strikes out a lot too. And I just want him to be able to just not feel like he's the number one hitter, has to see a lot of pitches. I want him to knock runs in, hit home runs, hit doubles, move guys along. So I'd like to see him move down. I don't know who number one is, but Schwarber, I think he's going to fit in great. Said all the right things. Just seems like the type of guy. Boston loved him. Washington loved him. And I think we're going to love him.
Right. I think so as well. And we'll see. I have hope for this team this year. I think bigger hopes than we saw last year. I don't know. The only thing I don't like, again, as we also tie in the Major League Baseball talk here, I wasn't too thrilled that they still want to have the 162 games, which is fine from a fan base perspective. But you're also rushing through spring training to then start going. You have the first full week of baseball of opening week, I believe the first 2 weeks. Then you start inserting the double headers, which to me, if these guys aren't conditioned yet to where they need to be, then you're adding double headers in there. Granted, it may not be the same guys through the second game, but to me, that's when you start proning yourself more to injuries. Don't know exactly how you feel, and I'd like to get your take as well. Was it smart for Major League Baseball, after coming to this agreement, to then something that they were trying to get away from altogether, from this whole doubleheader nonsense, a lot of times where the players themselves don't want to really deal with it? Was it smart for them to insert a 162 game season, a condensed spring training, to now where it opens up the possibility of injuries?
Well, it's a huge worry because a lot of the MLB teams are in cold weather situations. So, you know, I don't think it's the same. Or, Bryce is 30 and he has back issues. Is he going to have them when he's in Philly and it could be 40 degrees on opening day? We don't know. I think, I'm always happy for more baseball, but maybe it should have been 154 or 140 something this year and avoided those double headers. I have to agree with that. They know they're going to start late with the abbreviated spring training. The part of that is I think the guys who are players who have played for a while, they generally do not like spring training. They feel like they can get where they need to get on their own, and they don't need these tune-up games. So I don't feel the abbreviated is going to hurt them. It hurts some of the fringe players. Maybe the guy, like, we don't know, is Torres going to make the team or is it going to be Stott? I think for those type of guys, spring is very important. And maybe extending it from 24 to 28, maybe it's 4 pitchers just because of those DHs that are coming in. Because in 18 innings, like the Phillies, who knows? They could use 10 pitchers that day, maybe more. I mean, I'm hoping it's not like last year, because 10 would be like, that would be normal in a 9-inning game at times. But I agree. I think I wouldn't have went 162. I wonder if it had something to do with the money, because the players get played per game, right? And not per month or by week.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think there was a comment that was made there not too long ago, earlier this week, about exactly that it might have been because of the money. So who knows? I know that for Nick Castellanos, he came over from the Reds, 5-year deal. The Phillies agree with him for a 5-year deal. But Rick Marcus, another great friend of the show there from Southwest, he says he likes Castellanos, but he plays where Harper plays, which is right field. He's thinking that maybe they'll move him over to third base.
Yeah, because Bohm, man, today, I don't know if you saw the game, but another just like 2 horrendous plays. One was a little bit difficult, but one was just like a plain, you got to make those plays. These guys may not make the spectacular, but they have to absolutely make those just easy ground balls, and he throws it away. And then I think Bohm's a kid who that gets in his head. And what he did in the field, he takes it to the batter's box or vice versa, and he's not able to separate that. I'm just not sure that the success of the Phillies farm team or farm, where does that stem from? Is it because we kind of failed on Moniak, 2016's number 1 guy. I don't think he's ever going to play at this point. We're 6 years in. He's not going to play. When you look at Veerling, he was a 5th rounder, so maybe you hit on someone like that. But then again, Hazley was a 1st rounder, and he's not really in the plans right now. He might have fell into the plans because Odubel was hurt again, but I liked him. I just don't trust him.
We stay within the division here, and you look at Atlanta, obviously winning the World Series, looking to once again do it again this year. And they could have a probability. And by the way, it's the only fan base that I know of, and call me nuts, but the only time they seemed to show up was the last game of the World Series, when they kind of felt like they were actually going to win it all, even though Houston came very close from taking that away. But again, I don't understand the Atlanta fan base. I don't get it. They made the brand new stadium because they swore they were going to bring in, the crowds all over. It looks just like when they were in downtown Atlanta. No difference at the old Olympic Stadium. So Atlanta kind of made, a couple of moves here. As soon as the talks came, we're done with the talks. New York Mets obviously were making a bunch of moves prior to the strike. And then, afterwards, they've kind of slowed down a little bit. But the Mets spending refer back to the Phillies, was spending stupid money because they want to win now. So between the Mets, the Phils, and the Braves, just sticking with those 3 there, do the Phillies have any kind of potential run to at least hang out? I would say maybe 2nd place. I won't say 1st yet because, again, we don't know. Major League Baseball, it's different week to week, day to day. Can the Phillies at least hang out in second for, I would say, at least the first quarter of the season, the way the schedule is written right now?
Yeah, I think so. And the Braves, I think, are the competitors, right? The Mets, like they went out and spent money, but the Mets are the Mets. It'll be nice to have a rivalry. As an aside, I don't know if you saw, but Max Scherzer and Castellanos are kind of going back and forth on social media or via commentary. So I'm interested to see that Mets Phillies rivalry be interesting again. I mean, I don't want the Mets fans to come to Citizens Bank Park. But if I were a Mets fan, I'd want to come there. Better than their dump. City Field is, a disaster. It's better
Yeah.
than Shea, but it's a dump. But yeah, I mean, I think that Atlanta didn't lose much other than Freeman, which is a huge one to lose, right? But they
Yeah.
still, like, Acuna wasn't playing last year, and they were that good. So I have to assume they're going to be in the same spot. Their bullpen, just a bunch of, I thought were no name. Some of them were just no name guys, and they're out there. Everyone's throwing 95 and above, left-handed, just ridiculous. Uh, Hopefully we get some of that rub this year, but I think that they, first or second place, because if the Phillies can stay in it until, at that point at June, July, like maybe it's the time we get that extra person, that Matt Stairs, that someone that pushes you that little bit wherever that hole may be, the fifth starter or, another bullpen piece, maybe some defense. Because here's the thing, Angel, like late inning, who do you put in for defensive purposes right now? We have a whole team of guys that have Flintstone mitts. Like no one's a defensive whiz. I
Right.
wouldn't even know what you would do. Late inning, I think you're like, hopefully we can score enough runs that late innings don't matter. But I don't think that there's that defensive replacement either.
No, I don't think so either. And I know, obviously, with the switching out in the outfield and things changing, because you're not going to be able to keep as much as we love to, as Phillies fans, as Major League Baseball fans, as fans in general. We'll love to keep every team together for as long as we possibly could. I mean, I don't know how the Eagles did as far as they got rid of Fletcher Cox and bring him back, obviously for less money, I guess, if you want to name it, because you getting things restructured. Sometimes you let the guys go unemployed for a couple of hours as they renegotiate contracts and do everything else. But it seems like to switch now over to the other side of the coast, the left coast or the west coast, whichever anybody wants to refer to. But the San Diego Padres seem to be one of the hotter teams that players want to go and play. Now, I haven't gotten the opportunity. We talked about it when we were together as far as Petco Park being one of those places that seems like everyone really wants to go to. I don't know if it's just something in San Diego where they're finally starting to make that turn. The Padres have never been contenders for many years. And if they get hot, it's for a short little run, and then we don't hear or see anything of them for a while. Seems like ever since they've been over at Petco Park, they've finally been getting there, and their farm system is probably, I would say, one of the top fives in all of Major League Baseball. And they did it via trades, obviously doing their homework from the minor league status, looking at teams from the East Coast to grab over to the West Coast. So between the San Diego Padres and even the Oakland Athletics, which I know they're coming up always a little bit short, but they're just a player or two away from getting it all. What seems to be the gravitational pull, and even for Seattle for the most part, why does it seem like the players want to go play? And I guess I'll start with San Diego first. Why does it seem like that's a go-to destination?
I think it's beautiful hitting weather and pitching weather the entire season. It's always 70 or 80. So I think, that has a little bit of a draw to it. But I think when you sign or a team signs that marquee player and pays that person, and Tatis, whatever happened with him with the injury, but still, like they went out and paid for him. And I think that's where someone may want to go because they're seeing that this team wants to win. I think some teams don't want to win, and it's more of a business. And that's where, Nick said that kind of like backhandedly, but about Cincinnati. I don't think he wanted to leave there. I think he wanted to stay, but they wouldn't pay him the money. So he's like, well, then I'm going to go elsewhere. Because as soon as he left, a few of the other players kind of like were like they shipped them off too. So it's still it's still a business. Now you mentioned Seattle, so the their scouting. I played their scouting director. I played like grade school, high school ball with him. he's awesome. And I think he just has an eye for talent. And we need something like that. And there's also Oakland, Tampa Bay, the Rays, like their payroll's nothing, yet they continue to win. So
Right.
I do like analytics. I don't trust it 100% like some teams do. I think there has to be a mix. And I think prior, maybe with Gabe and, Clintack, that analytics kind of went this way because they would have never signed, Schwarber or Castellanos because maybe the some metric somewhere, but like you see these guys. So San Diego is definitely weather to me, has something to do with it. But I think the owner, like they know they want to win and win now. So that's just my opinion of it. Switching to top, like about the Phillies and Sixers, Angel, do you think Joe Girardi has won many games for the Phillies by the way he's managed? Do you think that he's done things that we don't see as fans that have won some extra games for the Phillies and when he was with the Yankees? Or do you think he's had the luck of good Yankee teams, maybe some deficient Phillies teams, and he's not as good as we think he is?
I wouldn't say I don't think he's as good as he is. He definitely did have the luck as stretch run because obviously the Steinbrenners, I mean, they spent money. Everybody knows it. They bought. Yeah. If we're all going to keep it real here, and a lot of fans know I do not like the New York Stankies, and I've called them that for many, many years. But for the New York Yankees, obviously they always spent money to build those championship teams. And so it's different. If you're providing your manager, if to make comparison here, Bill Belichick from the New England Patriots turns no names into big names and wins Super Bowls with them. Or if not, they get marketed out somewhere else because then he can go again with lower draft picks. He knows how to draft well, and so does his entire team. So he can build a great team with no-name players versus the Yankees were able to put those players, via the, from the Rangers, being from the Astros, being from the Dodgers. They were able to take those players and put that mold together for him to have him win the way he did in New York. Here in Philadelphia, it's been, don't want to say as much as luck. He's tried some of the formulas that he did in New York. Unfortunately, what works in the American League may not be working in the National League. So he's had to, basically reinvent himself and figure out what's the strategy, what works for him. And I know that the Phillies didn't like too much as far as when it came. I like the old school baseball the way it worked before. So I think with Girardi, he is to me getting a kind of a bad rap because I think the fans expected for him to do what he did in New York. But you're right as far as if you don't put the acquisitional talent in front of him, there's only so much he can do. That's in any coach in any sport, no matter which way you look at it, from the Pee Wee League all the way up until they get into the majors. It's the same exact way. And I kind of feel bad for Joe Girardi because he is trying to do the best he possibly can with this team and this organization and being smart. But again, it's a relationship between your manager and your GM. That's where your two key pieces are. Same way we saw across the street over there at Lincoln Financial Field. Owner, GM, coach. And we saw that and obviously with Doug no longer being here, and they bring in who they brought in. And it's just, to me, Joe Girardi he's going to be fine. I just think it's going to have to be another 2 years and what they continue to build around them. If they continue to spend smart money, if they continue to figure out what key pieces from what other teams, if you can make trades, because right now the Phillies don't have a lot either, because since they don't have a lot in the farm system, to be able to trade for a good acquisition, it makes it hard for them. So this year, I think out of any other year in Phillies baseball history, the homework they're going to have to do to watch the kids that are coming out of high school, that are going into college, and same way, they're coming in from college, playing, at the league levels that they are. Phillies are going to have to find those diamonds in the rough to put a great team together. And then once you start building them and starting from Clearwater, I'm not even going to go out to AA, just starting here in their single A affiliate. Once they start doing enough pieces and putting good pieces into place, then we can start doing what we used to do before in that 2005 to 2011 run, where you had all those great pieces that you could make, different moves. But I think Joe Girardi, he kind of gets a little bit rough, and I get it because we all want to win. We're all tired. Since 2008 and 2009, as I said to Charlie when we got to talk a little bit one-on-one, was To me, it felt like they were gassed out, or they just didn't care or celebrate too much, like what we saw what the Eagles did after winning the Super Bowl. So to me, Joe he's okay. I think it's tough. It's tough to see what's going to happen, but I think Joe's going to be okay.
8th or 9th, he's calling out, you're hearing Enter Sandman and Mariano's in, and the game's over. Like, Joe's like, I'm putting Brandon Workman out there, or, anyone the past 2 years, and they're just getting just absolutely bombarded, home runs. The thing, I was watching the Sixers the past 2 nights, and Doc Rivers, like, he's just maddening. And he's a guy that I don't think the Sixers win in spite of him. I don't think they win because of him, because some of the rotations and some of the times I see what 5 players he has out on the court at the same time, I just don't understand why they're resting all 5 starters in the third. And then we either get it close or then we go down. So I think, that has to change. And I just wonder if he's just not the guy.
I mean, we'll see. I think maybe I guess we could take a look and, think about this tonight, and then we'll see about the first month of April. We'll see what we get of Joe Girardi and what he has to work with. Again, barring injuries or anything else, we'll see what, we can talk about this. So you figure what, today's March 22nd. So we'll go after this again on April 22nd and see what happens then. How much progress has he made and how much do we believe and don't believe? Because we know in Philly radio, Philly market, it's always tough. We love when they go on those major streaks, and we hate it like any other fan base when they go on that major losing streak. So I'm going to give Joe the benefit of the doubt. I think he's going to be just fine. Sydney just has some breaking news for us, and she says the Phillies just announced that they agreed to 1-year contracts with Alvarado and Hoskins, and they'll avoid the arbitration, which is actually really good. Chipper, as I told you before, the Braves fans is still got to catch the Braves, although I'm not worried about the Braves too much this year. But he asked who finishes last in NL East, the Marlins or Phillies? I'll let you go first.
Let's just agree that it won't be the Braves and it won't be the Phillies. So I think the Nationals or the Marlins will. So I appreciate Chipper's optimism that the Phillies will finish that low, but it's just not going to happen.
They won't. He also says he'd like to see Tony Bruno as a Phillies manager, which that would be pretty exciting for Tony Bruno to be out there managing the Phillies. But no, I think for me, I think the Nats do finish last. I think the Marlins even get a little bit of a break. And I know, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back here to Rick, because he says he's surprised that more players don't come to Florida due to no state tax and great weather too. And as you had just mentioned, listen, the Rays somehow or another make that magic work. I don't know how the Rays do it. One of the lowest baseball payrolls, and we saw the year before, and then making the World Series run last year. They came up a bit short, but it's what Kevin Cash does with that team, and I believe he's going to be, if he does the same thing he's done with the Rays this year again, I think Kevin Cash is going to be a hot commodity for a lot of teams out there for Major League Baseball. Don't know how the Rays do it, but it's interesting to see the weirdest ballpark I have ever in my life been to.
I was going to ask that. Like, do you think they're going to stay there? Do you think Tampa Bay stays in Tampa Bay? I just don't see it. I don't know where they're going to go. I was watching the Union played Montreal, and believe it or not, Olympic Stadium in Montreal is still around. And for whatever reason, Montreal doesn't normally play there, the soccer team, but they played there. And I'm just like, it was so old. And I'm like, it looked terrible. Dome stadiums now we don't love, but it reminded me of, where the Rays play. And I just, do you get there at all? Like, what's your feeling when you walk in there?
Yeah, so we get to a couple of games throughout the year. The Phillies actually play an exhibition game before they head back home. I think it's next week, but not this week. No, I think it is actually coming this week or next week, just before they go home to have a game before they open up the season. Very bizarre. Cool, I will say, as far as when it's blistering hot outside, about 95 degrees and 1,000% humidity like it is here in Florida. It's nice where it's cooler inside the stadium. Unless it is extremely hot, then you can feel the heat inside the stadium as well. It's just weird because it was not made for baseball. Tropicana Field was obviously made for Lightning, and then they decided to make it the Rays field. The problem with the Rays was their owner had the not so good relationship with the former mayor of St. Pete, Rick Kreisman. And he really threw the team for a loop. The team wasn't looking for the fans to burden the taxes and everything else when it comes to building a brand new stadium. But he was like, if we can do it half and half, or maybe we'll even pick up 60% of the cost, and you guys can pick up 40%. He says, no, if you guys are going to do it 100%, then forget about it. No team ever has ever foot the bill 100%. You've gotten close to maybe 70-30, but you're never going to get 100%. It's going to be, unfortunately, taxable to the people who live in the city. So they tried to come up with some stadium out there in St. Pete where the Rowdies currently play. Now, as oddball as this may seem, if you ever got any chance to go down there to watch the Rowdies play, basically it's an old high school field that was then converted to a soccer field. That then they want to convert into a baseball field. So you would have basically a minor league feel for a major league baseball team. There's not too many seats in the house. The only thing that would be cool is you would have the complete backdrop of St. Pete, which isn't a bad thing. But again, when the humidity is extremely high down here in Florida, and that's the reason why the Marlins spend close to $1 billion building their stadium, because you have the summer storms, which everybody knows if you live down here, it is the lightning capital of the world. So when the summer storms roll through, it's like mini little hurricanes for like 15, 20, half hour, and then they're gone. So it's never an all rain day event. But when they do come through, they come through during game hours. So it's kind of hard to do it here in the summertime. Then they decided they were going to do a deal with Ybor City, basically moving back into Tampa, and do a deal with Ybor, which was going to be, they had two versions of the stadium. An indoor version of it with a glass ceiling, which was going to be, again, a little bit tough because of the extreme heat down here in Florida in the summertime. And then we're thinking about, okay, well, maybe we can't do an exact open air stadium. So the fallout plan was what the Rams did out there in LA, that you would still have a covered stadium, but make it open air to kind of save money where they wouldn't have to provide air conditioning all the time. But anybody knows, again, who's ever down here in Florida, starting next month, all the way through October, it's basically 90 plus degrees, and the humidity usually stays at 100% all the way through October when hurricane season is about to wrap up. So they've been trying to work with them. Unfortunately, again, maybe the new mayor of St. Pete, he'll come up with a deal. They tried to deal with Montreal, and it was going to be called the X-Rays, which I thought was going to be the most ridiculous name in the world. Yeah. That fell through because MLB said, no, we're not doing this part-time nonsense where we start in St. Pete and end up in Montreal, because it wasn't going to benefit the players either. And a lot of the players were not reluctant of doing even doing anything like that. So the Trop, it has its moments. It's a weird setup. It is a really weird setup. As you're walking through it, if you come in through home plate or even on first base, you basically have to walk in front of everyone as you go through the lower bowl, like they did in for Lakeland at Detroit Stadium. So it's basically the same where at Publix Field. You walk in front of the fans in order to get to the outfield, to get out there. You also have to exit out of the building and enter another part of the building to get to the upper level of the same building. So it's a goofy setup. It's a goofy little place. If you're local here, you may end up loving it. I know everyone, as far as the Yankees and Red Sox, when they come into town, it's a complete sellout because all the ones that live here from the area, they travel from Fort Myers to watch the Red Sox play. Yeah. And the transplants from down here, I mean, they absolutely love it. But I don't know what's going to happen to the team. I hope they end up staying around, but who in the world knows? We'll get Chipper give me a second because Cindy says she's got to run. Got to run, guys. Thanks for the insights. Go Phils and DPF rocks. Have a great night. Flyers losing 3-2 halfway through the second. Cindy, thank you so much. I hope you come back next week and view the show here with Leslie Goodell on Thursday. So I appreciate you tuning in. And thanks for love and support for the Drunk Phils fans. We do appreciate that. It says, Rick, nope, not that one. Sorry. Rick says the Trop is more like a circus atmosphere, which is absolutely true. It is absolutely true. And Chipper says, will the Phillies bullpen be better? I mean, it can't get worse, can it? It can. It can.
Yeah, I don't want to say it can't get worse because shoot, I said that the year before last, and then last year it was like, oh, we're in the same thing. It was like Groundhog's Day. But I hope so.
I hope so as well. And Rick says that he has to admit the Rays do get more fans than the Marlins, and he's absolutely right about that one. They do get a lot more. Listen, before we end up wrapping up, one thing I want to talk about as far as, and I mentioned the A's before. Apparently, Oakland is seriously considering moving over to Vegas. As we know that Vegas is trying to, they're trying every major league team to go out there. the minor league team and that minor league ballpark they have out there from Oakland, an absolute beautiful facility, which they actually practice next to the Golden Knights practice venue when they're not obviously on the ice out there at is it LG? No, forgot the phone company's name. T-Mobile Arena. So to me, I believe that Oakland is going to make that switch because I know they also want a new stadium out there. I don't know if they're going to get it in LA, if they're going to stick out there in Oakland because everyone's moving around everywhere. I don't know how much California, as much as they say they're broke, that money they spent just for the Rams not too long ago, they also spent it not too long ago for your former champions, the Golden State Warriors. So to me, I think Oakland pretty soon jumps ship and goes to Vegas. So I like to go get to know your thoughts here before we end up wrapping up the show.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was always Oakland Coliseum, right? The place is just ancient. Everyone hates it. It's kind of like the Vet towards the end, but we love the Vet. They never liked it. The Coliseum's a disaster. I think that Oakland is definitely going to move because I think they're going to go, if we think about like the arc of that team, Philly to KC, to Oakland. Las Vegas is getting a team, and Oakland seems the most likely since they're out there. I think I don't know if it's a few years, if it's next year, if it's going to be one of those packing up overnight, but I think Oakland is definitely going to Las Vegas, and they should, because if Oakland doesn't want to support them, Vegas will.
Yeah, that's so true. I've been out to Vegas, and we went to when they were building Allegiant Stadium. That's a beautiful, beautiful stadium. We had the opportunity to be on the outside and walked around. I mean, it's a thing of wonder, a thing of marvel, but why not? It's Vegas. Everything they do in Vegas is big. So it's a great stadium and a great venue. But Chipper says that good, the city of Oakland keeps screwing the A stadium, and the stadium is old as I am. Chipper, I'm only 21 years old. So unless the stadium is only 21, add 30 to that. But no, it is beyond old. Chipper's done. Always good to see you to come in. Says Rick says, did the prices change for the Berm tickets at Bay Park? Thought they were $14, but saw $21 today. I think during the when the boys are in town, I know they tend to be just a tad bit higher. Obviously, for minor league games, they're a little bit lower. But I think, matter of fact, we paid. It wouldn't be out of the realm because I'm pretty sure Debbie and I paid a set of games where we pay like $21 per ticket, and then it was like $16 for the veterans discount. But it's about there, Rick, about $14 to $16, but it could be $21 depending on who they know is going to be in the lineup. Put it that way, to say it best. But listen, Chris, before we sign off here, got to thank a couple folks for obviously being a part of the show as well, and that is our sponsors, which we start off with always. Tampa Joe's, if you guys are coming down to the Tampa area and looking for some great food, some serious fun, a friendly atmosphere, and guys and girls that work the tail off for Mike Goodwin, for Robert, for PJ, for Philly to South, which is the official sports bar of the Eagles down here during the NFL season, please visit TampaJoes.com. And or if not, if you are here, they are a hop, skip, and a jump right off the airport, 9316 Anderson Road in beautiful Tampa, Florida. Please patronize TampaJoes.com, and more importantly, with our partners at Philly Sports Trips and PhillySportsTrips.com. As we talked about it, we had an excellent time with the venue, with the whole entire crew the week they were down here. And if you guys don't believe me, take a look at the video I just posted up there on Facebook and see the reason why when you book your next travel to any sporting venue they have up there on the website, please do it with PhillySportsTrips.com. Vince and the gang do an absolute phenomenal job of hosting, taking care of you, making sure you're fine. It is stress-free, and all you have is just a great time. So again, visit our partners at PhillySportsTrips.com. You would not be disappointed. Also, of course, to Larry Gilman at LGDirect.net. If you guys need credit card or payment solutions, credit card terminal solutions, put it that way, not credit card solutions, but credit card terminal solutions, please visit LGDirect.net. That's LarryGilmanDirect.net. Also, if you need apparel, visit LGDirect.net, or if not, call them at 855-777-3863, 855-777-3863, also along with BigSarSportsTalk.com. Again, with a Z instead of the S. So go to BigSarSports.com. Great content as always with Big Sarge. And also you can listen to him Monday through Friday on Sports Talk 790 from 10 to 12 Central Standard Time, 11 to 1 Eastern Standard Time with former Eagle ND Kalu. Also with Chris Gordy and Jacob Beck behind the glass. Big Sarge with the In the Trenches show Monday through Friday from 10 to 12. And also visit all the great content he puts out there on BigSargeSports.com. And also with a special partnership with Caesar Rewards, Super Draft Pro. If you guys love to gamble, but do not have a gambling addiction, but want to have fun, please visit our website and look at the top of the link. Click on there, and they have from a free account to a paid account to just a mediocre account, if I can put it basically in the best terms. But if you guys like to gamble, you like to have fun, and if you can't win money in the state where you gamble in, they do have different prices and you can apply those winning tours. So check out Super Draft Pro. You'll absolutely love it just as much as we do. Again, thanks to Eagles Mania for always sharing out the show. To Steel City Renegades LLC, you guys can check out their show during the NFL season from 7 to 9 p.m. We always have a great time over there, and they just had a show this previous Monday night or Sunday night, if I remember correctly. So check out the replay on their Facebook page, part of Red Line Radio LLC. And the last couple comments I see coming in before we end the evening here. Dylan says, Rick Marcus depends on the team whose Phillies are playing. As far as, just we talked about here on the pricing. So Rick said, thank you. And sometimes if the teams like the Yankees, that will charge up tickets as a premium game, which is true. It is ridiculous how much the Yankees, I don't even want to go into there, because whenever you see them in Tampa, you're never going to pay anything less than a minor league ticket for the New York Yankees down here. It is always at ballpark prices, as if you were back at Yankee Stadium in New York. Why? I don't know. It's insane, but it is what it is. And Dylan says, go Blue Jays. Dylan, I hope you have fun with the Toronto Blue Jays. I know they're going to expect big things out of you. Keep learning, my friend, because you keep doing great things, and people are going to know who you are in someone's household pretty soon for all good things. Premium game with low-cost players. Yeah, exactly, Rick, over there with the with the Yanks, unfortunately. But for everyone else, thank you for tuning in. Again, Chris, thank you so much, and please let everyone know once again where they can find your great content.
Sure. So we're at Drunk Phils Fans on Twitter, at Drunk Phils Fans on Instagram. And also, if you search Drunk Phils Fans on the Facebook, we're there as well. And then we also have drunkphilsfans.com, which is more of our blog. So there's probably 10 years worth of content up there. It's not just today's things. We're kind of talking about the Phillies from 1900 on honestly. Angel, thanks for having me on. Hopefully you'll have me back again. I had good times, great talk.
Oh yeah, no, believe me.
Thanks
You're
to
welcome.
all of our comments, and anyone who from Drunk Phils Fans, appreciate all the fans on there. Make it awesome. So thank you.
No, Rick missed the question earlier from today, so he says last question, and again, where did the name come from? Because he missed it in the very beginning.
Okay, so it was around about, I'd say 12 years ago or so that I started it, and it was more of like the drunk wasn't exactly alcohol related. It was just more like I was just intoxicated with Phillies. It's always 12 months of the year. January, I'm thinking about hot stove. Middle of the season, I'm still Phils, win or lose. So I kind of did it that way, a little bit tongue in cheek. As it grew and things changed, and I do like different breweries, craft cocktails. I kind of will post where I'm going, the different craft beers that I'm having, different types of events. So it melds baseball and beer is where it came from. So that's a good question.
No, thanks for answering again for everyone. But again, thanks to Cindy and Donna, Rick, Sean. I see you end up coming in here at the last minute, and for everyone who tuned in today, the other Chris that we had seen earlier in the show as well. One last comment coming in here. That's awesome. Thanks for coming on. And believe me, Rick, he will be back on. By the way, if you have the availability on Thursday, if you'd like to come back on, in case you have questions for Leslie Goodell, who's going to be our guest this Thursday, by all means, Chris, come back this Thursday.
I appreciate that, Angel. That's awesome.
No problem whatsoever. For everyone else, thank you for tuning in once again tonight. We do appreciate it. We will be back this Thursday, 8 p.m. with Leslie Goodell coming up this Thursday. So please tune in Thursday night. And then next week, April 5th, we'll have Rob Motti back on with us. Rob is always a great time whenever we have him on there. Just as much fun as Farzy. So we hope to hear all the good things he's been doing since he left 97.5 The Fanatic. We've had him on since then. But now being the NFL season where it starts to slow down and gets a little bit of an opportunity for him to take a break and he will come back on with us. So for everyone else, have a great night. Enjoy your evening, and we will see you all on Thursday night.